he should be out in a second.
I think he's coming.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Beard?
Here.
Councilmember Bowie?
Here.
Councilmember Fawn?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Here.
Mayor Nguyen?
Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'd like to ask Ms. Kim Hoy to give us the invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
As we gather here this evening, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. Amen. Amen. Please place your hand over your heart and begin with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm going to ask our acting city attorney to give us a quick report on the closed session, and we'll have a continued closed session after our meeting.
Yes, Mayor. We only were able to discuss items 2A and 2C, and there was no reportable action out of those items. And after the meeting, we got to go back into closed session on items 2B and 2D.
Great, thank you. Looks like we have a couple presentations tonight.
Yes, we have a presentation, the Award of Excellence in IT Practices by the Municipal Information Systems Association of California, recognizing the city's Information Technology Department. Mitch Cochran, IT Manager for the City of Monrovia, is here to make that presentation on behalf of MISAC.
Good evening, Mayor Nguyen and council members, staff. It's very much a pleasure to be here this evening, and I get to represent the MISAC, or Municipal Information Systems Association of California Association. And our association promotes peer-to-peer communication among municipal IS professionals. We offer personal and staff development enrichment. We're about 300 members, organizations within just the state of California. We serve as advisory body of the League of California Cities, representatives on the league committees, government technology, other conferences, and a number of functions state level. Statewide conference, information library, co-op technical training classes that are no cost to our members, and excellence in IT practices, which we're here to discuss tonight. We established a certification program to recognize exemplary achievements and performance in information technology practices. City of Garden Grove, under the direction of Charles Khalil, is being recognized this evening as an agency that excels in creative and efficient uses of government and uses of resources in local government. The award signifies that the agency has exceeded the local government standards in the areas of strategic planning and budget, purchasing, operations, customer satisfaction, internet, project management, training, disaster preparation recovery, policies and procedures, and GIS. But the process is just as important as the award. As part of the program, the applicant receives an evaluation on where they can improve. It's about 100 questions, and every question is prove what you say, just not yes or no. And the panel of 3 city IS directors give award based on the audit of that application. It's a great tool to look at how you're doing from an outside perspective. And the award's updated every year to meet and incorporate new standards, best practices, so the applicants are held to the highest standards. And for those familiar with the CAFR awards from CSMFO, the financial folks, program's very similar, but for the technology field. And on behalf of Municipal Information Systems Association of California, it's my distinct pleasure to present the City of Garden Grove with MISAC's Award for Achievement in Information Technology Practices.
Awesome, thank you. That's for these guys right here. Yeah. Yeah, congratulations. You guys worked hard. Please. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Our Garden Grove staff, winning us awards, making us proud. You want to say a few words? All right. Oh, picture. Okay. Take a picture.
All right, picture. 1, 2, and 3. Do one more. 1, 2, and 3.
As our council has made technology improvements a priority this past year, we felt it necessary to ensure our information technology department was adhering to best practices for our industry. This MESAC certification, conducted by other city IT professionals, offered up an open and transparent way to achieve this. I'd like to thank the hardworking men and women of our IT department, and a special thanks to our IT manager, Anand Rao, for spearheading this project. The project required many hours to review our existing policies and practices and compare them with industry recommendations. Over the last year, IT has updated its policies, met with its stakeholders, and created an IT strategic plan, disaster recovery plan, and reviewed our hardware and software management policies. We also began the process of creating a comprehensive business continuity plan. All of this updated information was submitted to MESAC for review. While we did well on our initial entry, this process pointed out areas for improvement. It is through improvement that IT can fulfill its mission to provide effective and efficient communication, analysis, and tools that promote leadership, public safety, and an informed and involved public through the use of integrated and open systems. I would like to thank MESAC and my fellow IT directors and managers that do this review as a public service to us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Great work, and thanks for your leadership. Really appreciate it. Winning us awards.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
members of council, if I could just add a couple very quick comments. You know, our IT department is a pretty small department. It's not large, but we've got a group of very talented, dedicated people that are willing to work lots of extra hours. As all of you know, we've asked them to do a lot this year with our OpenGov initiative. We've rolled out our mobile app for citizens to go on our website, log in citizen issues where work can be done, potholes, graffiti, things like that all around the city. We've asked them to do a lot, and they've really stepped up to the plate, certainly with everything that I've asked them to do since we've been here. So I want to personally thank them. They're doing great work for the citizens of Garden Grove. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys go above and beyond. Okay, we have another presentation tonight.
Yes, Chief Elgin is here and will be presenting the Community Spotlight recognizing Officer John Baggs and the Huntington Beach Police Department.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This evening, the Garden Grove City Council is pleased to recognize the Huntington Beach Police Department for going above and beyond for our Garden Grove residents. With us tonight is Captain Dave Bonetta, Officer John Baggs, and the on-duty motor officers from the Huntington Beach Police Department. On June 2nd, Officer John Baggs, and that's that big guy standing in the middle there with the tie on, responded to a scene of an accident. Candida Torre, a Garden Grove resident, was the woman behind the wheel. Her first words to Officer John Baggs were, "That's my son's car." Candida had been driving her son's car since 2010 when he was deployed to Iraq. In early 2011, Army Specialist Jose Torre Jr., a combat engineer, was killed in action when his unit was attacked with a rocket-propelled grenade in Baghdad, Iraq. Having lost his father in a military accident in 1976, Officer John Baggs wanted to do something for Candida that would honor her son's service and sacrifice. A few weeks after the collision, Officer Baggs called Candida's insurance company, the Automobile Club of Southern California, to buy the destroyed car. But when the insurance company heard the story, AAA donated the car instead. Officer Baggs had an idea of repairing the car and approached David Goldstein, Senior Vice President of Operations for Caliber Collision in California, who donated the company's collision repair services after hearing what Officer Baggs was planning to do. On Veterans Day, Candida was invited to a ceremony in Huntington Beach where Officer Baggs and the Huntington Beach Police Department surprised her with a rebuilt version of her son's car. On the passenger side are the words, "All gave some gave all," which replicated a tattoo Candida's son and his platoon had. At this time, the Mayor and City Council would like to present the Huntington Beach Police Department with a gift of appreciation and recognition of the Huntington Beach Police Department's generous and caring efforts to return Jose Torres' Nissan Cube to his mother, Candida Torre, who is here tonight, back here, standing behind us here. And on a personal note, I would like to send my heartfelt condolences to you, Ms. Torre, but also to you for your father. And I will say this, there's a lot of noise out there today in the media, and there's a lot of bad press on police officers based on a few. But this type of generosity and this type of stuff goes on every day in this country with police officers who go above and beyond the call of duty to just go the extra mile. And I got to tell you, when I read this today, I was very moved by it, like I told you outside. And today, you're my hero. Congratulations to you, and thank you for everything.
Wow. Thank you. That's a great story. Great people out there helping our community. That's what we're about here. So let's go into our next portion. We're going to have oral communications. This is for the regular city council and also the Successor Agency and the Industrial Development Agency. And for those that have put in cards for item 7B and 8A, I'm going to call your cards before those items. First up, Tony Flores. Following Tony Flores will be Verla Lambert.
Good evening, City Council staff. My name's Tony Flores. Last time I was here was the last council meeting talking about your Take on Hate resolution regarding the Arab Muslim campaign where they don't want to be, I guess, discriminated against, and rightly so. However, I talked about the Paris attacks, and on their website they didn't put anything on there about condemning those cowards that had pulled that off. And we lost a lady from Southern California, Ms. Gomez, who went to Cal State Long Beach. I called again today, asking them if they were going to put anything up regarding San Bernardino. They said that wasn't their focus. Get that? That wasn't their focus, to condemn that or put it on their website. And we passed a resolution supporting these folks. I really think we need to take another look at this, because it appears to me, after talking with them, they want us to tolerate their intolerance. you guys need to take another look at this here. This doesn't make any sense. And she just said that's not their focus. They're doing something else. But I said, wait a minute. Hate is hate. Why aren't we addressing this? Why aren't you folks talking about it? That's not their focus, they told me. Conversation ended. I was also here talking about the El Nino that's coming up. Wanted to make sure that you folks are aware of what's going on out there in West Garden Grove regarding the Garden Grove channel and the Bolsa Chica channel. There's still another component that needs to be fulfilled. I understand it's going to cost about $8 million. And we've had some monies come through here, like our future HUD dollars we probably could have used for that, but we took that money and spent it on land to buy for developers on Harbor and gave it to the developers. That's in the books, by the way. Take a look at that. Also talking about being under attack, and maybe that might be a little bit too harsh, but it's certainly interesting when I read this November 18th letter that was sent to Verla Lambert's neighborhood, talking about building inspectors and code enforcement officers will be inspecting each property regarding the municipal code. Now, we've been down the road on the municipal code before. Of recently, you remember, Mayor, back in June 19th, 2015, where you used, took the personal convenience to talk to an officer for a while there. That's a violation of the municipal code. Nothing was done. And recently, the ongoing investigation, or the investigation that's at the DA's office regarding allegations of you violating the municipal code, penal code, and government code. Again, the municipal code, I guess, is overlooked there in those situations. But we're talking about a whole entire neighborhood. I mean, we're using resources to go after a whole entire neighborhood. And there may be some reasons for it, but, and I'm all for the municipal code. In fact, I've even called a couple of times when we've had cars that are parked on Springdale and Chapman, or Manly and Lamson, that are up there for sale, which is a violation of the municipal code. Parking to advertise, 10.56.140. But when I called code enforcement, they're not enforcing that right now. They're not enforcing that code right now, so that code. So it makes it interesting. I went by your house today, actually this weekend, Mr. Beard. You live out there in West Garden Grove. You've got a nice patch of gravel out there. Let me read this out of the municipal code. Substitute landscaping. Materials such as crushed rock, redwood chips, pebbles, and stone may not be used in lieu of live plant materials. You know, and now unless you went through a hearing body to get that approved, here we are trying to force the municipal code upon these folks over in the Palm area who were about to lose their homes back in 2000, and now here we are again coming out with a different angle. And again, I understand municipal code. I understand it's hopefully to promote the quality of living in Garden Grove, but I've not really seen it. I mean, we seem to use it when it's convenient or when we want to or when we're supposed to maybe look like we're doing something. But this is incredible. I mean, I've brought it up here before. It's been blown off. Now we're using it to look like apparently attack a whole entire neighborhood. You know, and after that presentation from the Huntington Beach officers and our chief of police, this is kind of embarrassing to even be talking about this right now. I mean, really? How many veterans live in that area over there in Palm whose homes are being invaded? And I went to a meeting this past weekend, and for some of these citizens to say that our code enforcement is not only looking from the street, but wanting to go inside their houses. I mean, this just smacks of you guys, I've heard you guys complain about the government in Vietnam, the communist regime in Vietnam. I hope you guys didn't bring it over here because this is embarrassing. Let's do a little bit better than that, guys. And while we can, and while it's still okay to say it, I do wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And let's have a safe 2016, but let's be serious. When we talk about it, I mean, let's talk the talk if you're going to walk the walk. Thank you.
Verla Lambert. Following Verla Lambert will be Kathy Vincent.
Well, I'm Verla Lambert, and I feel like I have a lot to say, so I'm just going to start right in. First off, I want to also give our police department some kudos. On November the 30th, myself and a couple of the residents was having coffee here at McDonald's up on Garden Grove Boulevard. And there was this mentally ill, I'm going to say from my observation, homeless gentleman that came in to the McDonald's. Making a long story short, they did call the police. The policeman came in, he got him out, finally got him outside. Wasn't making much headway. He was very professional, very patient, and we're still sipping our coffee. And he ended up getting some help in. When it was all over with, the policeman walked back into the shop and apologized for interrupting our morning coffee. I mean, you just don't see that much anymore. But then we do have a good police force here, and I do appreciate what went on that day. And then, of course, there's all these other good fellows that are around that keeps trying to smooth my ruffled feathers here, like Bill Murray and Bob Monkey over in my neighborhood, which happens to be Palm Street. 14 years ago, the city officials marched in on the east side of town thinking they could take over. To make a long story short there, a few good citizens saw what was going on and came to help. Tony Flores and his neighborhood was one. There was Lou Carrera, Joe Dunn, Chris Norby, Bruce Whitaker, Stephen Greenhut, and a few others. I'm sure you recognize all those names. And after the city officials saw that they was going to lose to the residents, well, they did. I know that that was in the past. I was part of that past, and I'm still here. I plan to be part of the future as well. By this time, I have 2 great-grandchildren and another one on the way, so my backing is getting stronger. Due to the past relationship with the city, the letter of received from the City Council Neighborhood Improvement Committee I felt was very intimidating. We are all mix of people. We have our own comfort zone. We have learned to respect each other's ways of life. We are not an HOA community or a gated community. We are not cookie-cutter residents. We need to be asked, when we may need to ask for help for such things such as potholes and taking care of street lights, which is city responsibility anyway. What has worked in the past is getting the larger dumpsters, which inspired our neighborhood to spring clean. And if money is an issue, I'm sure you can probably get a grant for that. And you should not be singling out individuals, groups, or even individual communities. The improvement should be over the whole city all the time. We know there isn't any more redevelopment. We also know they've changed their name. My last name used to be Saylor. I'm still here, and redevelopment is still here. I knew I couldn't say that. And improvement. Over the years, you have changed the codes to fit your needs. I can't plant a funnel on my front yard.
Ms. Lambert,
next
please wrap
to my
up.
curb. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy Vincent.
Thank you. Recently in my area of the Palm Street and Garden Grove Boulevard area, we have started a revitalization project, And we thank you for resurfacing our streets, because it's been over 35 years since you guys have done anything to our streets over there. But we do appreciate that. I've been told that our streets are completed, but one of the things I'm concerned about is that they don't look completed. When we were told that our streets would be slurried, and the streets don't look slurried. They don't look, usually when you slurry a street or a parking lot or a freeway, everything gets nice and even and smooth and it's all black. Our streets don't look like that. They look very grainy and different colors. It doesn't look like a good job has been done, and we're concerned that we would get potholes and things like that because water would then seep into the streets and deteriorate them more rapidly, and that's a big concern for us. It's been a long time since our streets have been taken care of, and we would like them to last. So that's something I would like to bring to your attention. Another concern I have is the timing of this revitalization campaign. Right now, it was started last week on November 30th, according to the letter that was sent to us. And the time of year, this is kind of a difficult time of year for many. We have our taxes due, flood insurance due, the holidays, and this is adding another stress to a lot of people in our neighborhood. There's a lot of things at this time of year can't be done well. It's just not the time of year to do it. For instance, I've been working on a door for weeks, sanding it, sealing it, priming it. I've got 4 layers of primer on it, but because of the moisture in the air, it pulls the tannin right through. So it can't cure properly. I don't want to waste my time and my effort working on my house. The days are shorter. We don't have the ability to be able to work on our properties as well as we might like to because the days are shorter considerably. We have, let's see. It seems like it would be a lot more profitable for all of us if you didn't start this project at this time. It would have been much better to wait until the days were starting to get longer. People can work after work on their properties on the weekends. We just would have more time during the later part of the year. Right now we're getting toward our rainy season. We have an El Nino year they're predicting. There's a lot of obstacles that are in our pathway, and I kind of feel like you're setting us up to fail. And I don't like feeling that way. I want to make things nice just like you do, but we need you to work with us. And I hope that you will take this into consideration as far as any decisions that you guys make, and to be fair to us as well as yourselves. But because we all want to be respected, and that's really what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Mitchell. And then following Charles Mitchell will be, I think, Virginia Fuller.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. Those were the words of Franklin Roosevelt when he announced that we were at war. Well, 74 years later, we are again at war, not with nations, but with people who subscribe to an ideology of hate. Do you know what these are? They're casualty lists, a long list of obituaries of friends of ours. Actually, it's not. Those were the words spoken by actor Don Amici from a movie, A Wing and a Prayer. But it illustrates the point that we have long lists of casualties and obituaries. We have a long list of obituaries of those of the great generation who served in World War II, and so many are gone now. But we also have another list, a list of those current casualties from Paris and San Bernardino. Now, it's ironic that we are facing this situation today, and yet we have so many that we have to think about. Those that went before us and those who will come after us. Of the list of those from veterans of World War II, last week I lost a dear friend. His name was Ernest Wardlow. He was a veteran of World War II. But the stories of valor and endurance of these veterans of World War II are being lost forever, with the exception of an organization that meets in Costa Mesa on the second Wednesday of every month. This is the Freedom Committee of Orange County. It was founded by Jack Hammett, a Pearl Harbor survivor and former mayor of the city of Costa Mesa. The purpose of this group is to go out to the schools and talk to the students and tell the stories of their experiences so that it's living history, so that they can understand the things that these veterans have endured. And we have veterans from all types of service and different periods in our history. We have World War II veterans, we have Korean War, Vietnam War, Gulf War veterans. We have some who are on leave temporarily who attend our meetings. And when we get together, we have a chance to talk to each other and listen to their stories. And fortunately, these stories are being recorded on video disc now so that generations to come will be able to hear what these people experienced. If you'd like to join us, the Freedom Committee of Orange County meets at the Costa Mesa Community Center. That's just off of 19th Street. And we meet at 11:30, bring your own brown bag lunch. The actual meeting starts at noon and lasts until 1:30, and it's always a very interesting and informative presentation. But more importantly, it's a chance to, at least for a short time, still be able to meet and talk to these veterans of all these years past. Thank you.
Virginia Fuller. And we have a couple cards for item 5A, which is written communications, which I'll have you come up after we respond to public comments from the council. Ms. Fuller.
City Councilman, ladies and gentlemen, I have 3 concerns in my neighborhood that I would like to discuss. But my first focus will be on Stanford Avenue, which is where I live. It is and has been in the past used as a throughway from Brookhurst Street to most of the new building sites within our region, our area. My neighbors and I have surveyed our neighborhood streets, taken photographs of various places of concern, especially on Stanford Avenue and other streets around there. Over the last 10 to 12 year, building permits have been issued to the new structures in our neighborhoods. This activity has affected our streets. This activity has brought very large equipment, trucks, cement mixers, etc., not to mention dirt and dust that may cause health issues for some of us. The feeling is this excess activity has brought increased damage to our roadbed, specifically Stanford. Also has broken the concrete curbs and the driveway aprons. Some of the construction seems to have slowed down for now. What lies ahead for our area is known as the Brookhurst Triangle, which will spread out over time. It will continue to affect our streets and our concrete curbs and aprons greatly, once again. We need to have some sound controls, rules of use in place before this project gets underway. On Stanford, in all directions, the pavement has large breaks that are widening. Holes now exist in the pavement. Cuts for new services have been made, leaving uneven surfaces. And also long concrete breaks in our aprons and driveways into our properties. I would use the word crack, but these are breaks. We know that the sidewalks and the driveway aprons belong to the city. That means they belong to me. I'm a citizen. They need some maintenance, not a smear over, a maintenance. We need repairs and replacements of the roadbeds. I sent a letter in 2014. I sent a DVD and a letter in 2015 asking for Public Works to come and take a look. And on a personal note, I asked for the review of the road conditions, also to find out when and where if work could and should be done, and have some real maintenance plans in place. I took it on myself to have an engineer, which I paid for, come and look at my situation. And my east apron, driveway apron, was patched by this Public Works Department. It lasted exactly 1 month, and it reopened. One of the breaks in the roadbed lines directly up in the middle of my driveway, my east driveway, and the break is all the way up to my garage door and the pad. I have photos of that situation. Currently, to date, I have spent more than $7,000 to stabilize my east and west driveway and aprons, and more expenses coming if this roadbed that moves and vibrates is not repaired. I will have to repair inside my garage. My concern is the condition of the roadbed. There is a lot of movement. I can feel it in my house. The vibration from these heavy trucks and heavy equipment. It's going to undo the efforts that I have already done to stabilize my property. We pay a lot of taxes. All of us pay a lot of taxes. We want to feel like we're getting something. We know monies are set aside for road maintenance and repair. We want to feel like something's happening for us. And it's been over 20 years since anybody's been on my street. So I can show you pictures of the last time they did it. I've been in my house 45 years. We're just looking for some help with this matter. Now, second issue is there's a strip mall on the corner of Stanford.
Oh, ma'am, please wrap up.
Am I already past 5 minutes?
Yes.
You are.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I will return for the second half.
Okay.
I didn't get to say it. It's about a pot shop that's opened in my neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not happy.
Okay, so would any of my colleagues like to respond to the comments tonight? Mr. Bowie.
Mr. Mayor, we have one more speaker card that just is coming in right now.
Okay. Do we have that speaker card? Okay, we have two.
Mr. Mayor and council members, good evening. Just wanted to thank you for the public service you do for the good residents of the city of Garden Grove. I'm former State Senator Lou Correa, and as an elected official, I had the honor representing Garden Grove in the State Senate for 8 years and then 6 years in the State Assembly. Last weekend on Saturday, I attended a meeting at the request of Ms. Verla Lambert and some of the residents in that area addressing the issue of code enforcement. Apparently, the City of Garden Grove is being active in that area, and I'm here just to say that I'm hoping that the city sits down and meets with the residents of that area. There are frayed nerves because of the historical situation, the historical things that have happened in that area. As you know, about 15 years ago, that whole area was subject to eminent domain and the possibility of all of those homes being torn down for the construction of what then was believed an amusement park. Those folks, those residents, are very proud to live in that area. They do not want to go away. They want their neighborhoods preserved. And if I may say, I think it's important that the city reach out to them, meet with them, and if your issues are code enforcement, let's be constructive, let's be productive, and make sure you don't tear folks' homes down, but rather work with them to make sure that the neighborhood is much better. So in conclusion, I just wanted to say I'm here lending support to those residents of that area the way I did 15 years ago, and I'm hoping that the city and other folks get together with the residents to come up with a win-win solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Beard?
Yeah, just want to ask, what's going on at Palm Street? Code enforcement, this is new information to me. Mr. City Manager, are we going to send people out there to address their issues and concerns? I don't know what's going on at Palm.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, so let me just mention a couple things about this situation. And admittedly, when people are talking about 14, 15 years ago, I've only been at the City of Garden Grove for 4 months now, so clearly I've got a lot to learn about the history and some of the things that have gone on over the years. We originally, it must have been about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think, when we had a community meeting with all of the city staff on the Neighborhood Improvement Committee, and the intention from the city was, as I understood it, is to really be focused and strategic to try and help a neighborhood out with bringing some additional resources to bear that would be helpful to the community. Clearly, if people are feeling that, we're talking about tearing houses down or something like that, nothing could be further from the truth. However, there's clearly a lot of history here that people are concerned about, and if nothing more, we really need to be concerned about what our messaging is, as we're going forward, because clearly, as I've been advised and I've thought about this program, and as I spoke, I think at the last, when we were at the animal shelter hospital, and we talked about this with all of the city staff there, the idea is that this should be a really positive thing. And if it's not, then clearly we have to rethink what our messaging and our thinking about how we do this. So, I had actually I had actually spoken to some of our staff earlier today to sit down with some of the neighborhood folks as soon as we can, early next week, whenever, to try and talk a little bit about what the plans were for the spring, because what we were I think what the city is embarking on, which this neighborhood improvement committee has done in other neighborhoods, and probably part of what we need to do is share a little bit with the neighborhood about what's been done in some of the other neighborhoods, about how we've tried to make some strategic improvements that really help the neighborhood. Some of the folks talked about coordinating a spring cleanup, bringing in dumpsters so people can use dumpsters, clean up their property, do things like that. Obviously, we're doing some resurfacing of the roads there in conjunction with it, and you know, you've got code enforcement out there too. And the idea is there would be a big neighborhood cleanup effort in the spring and March, and we've got volunteers who have talked about coming forward to volunteer their services to help residents who might not be able to do some of the things themselves to fix up their property. If we have seniors and other folks who might really need some help, this would be an opportunity to do that. But clearly we got, you know, community who feels like some of this is punitive and it's not being done in the right way. So I would agree with a lot of the comments that were said here today. What we want to do, we want this to be a positive effort. And if it's not being perceived this way, then we need to go back to the drawing board and rethink about how we do it. So, you know, that's kind of my reaction going forward. And I know some of the folks who have been really, who have contacted our office, I'd like to meet with them next week, this week if possible, just to talk about some of these things and figure out what makes sense for the community. And, you know, if, you know, they don't want to participate in this effort, you know, I don't want to force the neighborhood to participate in it. This should be a great partnership that we're working together on. So I think, Mr. Mayor, council members, Councilman Beard, I think we need, as a city, to go back and spend some more time talking to the neighborhood about it and really kind of sharing what the thought is and the plans are, especially for the spring, so that people can kind of really partner with us, because that's the whole goal of what this is. I know when I talk to the city staff about this, they're, you know, really struggling. They're trying to figure out, we're trying to do something that we think is really helpful, but if it's not being perceived that way, then we got to go back to the drawing board. We got to start over.
And so, Mr. Manager, I think the issue really is when the city initially met with the residents in the neighborhoods, they were told that work would not begin until after January. And it's such a shock to the folks that during the holiday season that they're getting these notices that the city has been going through the neighborhoods, and they're concerned, and they're rightfully concerned. They've been traumatized by you know, prior leadership in the city that had a different objective in our city, and rightfully so. You know, and I've spoken with some of the leaders directly, and we have shared those concerns. So I'd like to ask whether the city is going to continue on with this process now during the holidays, or will the city hold off until after the new year?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, and to the council members, we can easily hold off until after the holidays. This is not something, I mean, this is all about how do we work together with the community. So the last thing we want to do is appear to be not in concert with the community. So, you know, we can talk through that internally as a staff, and if that allays the fears of folks, that's something that we can easily do.
Yeah.
Great.
Mr. Manager, I think that, like I expressed in the previous meeting in public or as well as at the City Hall, it's very important for our residents that, you know, any major road construction, we need to schedule that so that it does not come so close to the holiday season. The Thanksgiving and the Christmas is a time when people need to move quickly. There's a lot of shopping going on. There's a lot of things on people's mind. So in the future, I would like the city to be very sensitive, very careful about starting any major construction or reconstruction during those time frames. But Councilman Beer and I were just handed a letter from someone in the audience here, and the language in this letter really concerned me. I'm reading a highlight, a yellow highlight. It must be, it's a very concern to the resident as well. And the letter said, in phase 2, we will move into phase 2 of our revitalization efforts the week of November 30th, 2015, building inspectors and code enforcement officers will be inspecting each property in your neighborhood for any code violations visible from the public right-of-way. I kind of felt that this kind of language, if I receive it would be very alarming to me. It will scare me and will put a lot of stress on me. So I think it's not right for us to to create this kind of unnecessary worry for our residents. Obviously, if there are things that are a public safety, we need to work with them so that it can be correct, so that it would not be causing harm to the resident or to the neighborhood. But we need to do that, in a way that would foster cooperation. Since we also on this topic, I would like to bring up another issue that I have heard a couple complaints and I mentioned to the staff before, and that is sometimes code enforcement demand entrance to inspect, entrance into the property to inspect whether there will be a violation or not. And there's a lot of confusion about whether the resident have to allow the code enforcement inspector to get in. And they are afraid, and sometimes it becomes very aggressive in that. Can you, the city attorney, can you comment on that? Do they have to let the code enforcement inspector to get in, or they don't?
No, there will not be mandatory. The city does not go inside private property without a warrant or without the consent of the property owner.
Okay, so folks, we're going to maintain order here. So we heard correctly. We have clarified. Our acting city attorney says that the city does not have the right. So letting you know what your rights are as residents in the city is that you do not have to open up. And if you didn't know that before, now we all know that. It's on the record. You do not have to. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
That's correct.
That is correct. Okay.
And I would like the city manager to ask the public works to make sure that our inspector understand, the law, and that they do not have the right to demand it. They could politely request entrance to inspect, but if they are refused, they will not demand it.
Councilman, I understand your point exactly, and we'll have that conversation internally with our staff to make sure that everybody is on the same page and that we're communicating that, just not just procedurally, but also, again, from a message standpoint, as you talked about earlier. So I appreciate your comments.
Mr. Mayor, not to get into a colloquy, but may I just...
Sir,
just very quickly, there's a lot of miscommunication here. Facts as stated are not as facts out there in the street, so
sure.
We got a lot of work to do.
Mr. Correa.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what is it that you wanted to say? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add that we have a lot of work to do. I think it's constructive that we meet with the residents, and furthermore, specifically, there are folks that knock on the doors of some of these residents and ask for entrance. And I don't know about you, but these folks are all hardworking people. And you get an official coming to your door from the city, there's an issue. Most of the time, they're law-abiding citizens. They're not going to say no, but at the same time, it's their private property. So you're creating an issue here. Let's just work with the folks and take care of business. Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, your council is representing you. We are very concerned here, and we're expressing that concern. This is not the forum, however, for political grandstanding, Mr. Correa. And please do not step up to the mic. We have a meeting going on here, so that's fine, and you are out of order. Mr. Beard?
Yeah, I think we're getting off topic here because
Yes.
I just wanted to find out about Palm Street, mostly because I wanted to identify what you had said so eloquently about, we have a neighborhood improvement program to identify neighborhoods. It's reflective of this letter. Maybe the tone and receipt of this letter by people can cause some concern about enforcement. That's a sensitive issue with me in particular, a lot of people. But the whole intent is constructive and positive, to go out and identify these neighborhoods and do constructive things as a city, to revitalize, to do improvements. Code enforcement is one aspect of that. There will be neighbors out there. I've walked this entire city and I've dealt with issues and people commenting about code enforcement. It's not an easy issue. We have neighbors who report other neighbors and see violations and such, and people think certain things are violations. But I just want to highlight that the intent of this program is positive and constructive. What we need to do is communicate. I think, and I'm just glad to hear you say that, and I thought you would be saying that. We want to reach out and communicate to people along the way. We need to learn from our experiences, and timing is one of them, the time of year that we do these items. So I think we will work with the citizens, with our resources that we have to go out there and identify issues, work with them on those issues, street improvements, coding issues. I was on code enforcement volunteer for a couple years, so I've seen it firsthand. And the intent is to do good things, but there are people who need to get things done in their neighborhoods. But we don't want people to think we're going out as a task force or going in mass to identify all the problems we see in neighborhoods. That is not the intent. We want to work with the people, and we want to identify those issues, lend resources toward them. And I want to see what Mr. Hill, if he has some comments to make about code enforcement or this neighborhood improvement program itself. Would you say, is that the intent, correct?
Well, before he speaks, Councilman, I couldn't agree with you more. Timing, messaging, all of that's all important of what we need to think about and what we'll be talking to the neighborhood about. So,
okay, great, thank you. Let's move along here. Sure, Mr. Bowie.
On the issue of the El Nino and the need to fix up the flood control channel, this is the second time Mr. Flores bring it up. So I really would like staff to report to us, what is this all about at the next meeting. Whether we do need to have need to do something, and what is our plan to, to take care of that flood channel. On the road construction at Stanford and Brookhurst Street, that would be very close to the Brookhurst Triangle, that we are going to see potentially a lot of construction heavy equipment there. I would like staff to work closely with the developer to make sure that heavy equipment there will not impact the resident more than it needs to. I think this is important because you heard the lady from that resident where she lives close to the Post Triangle. I can see the heavy equipment could be causing a lot of grief for them. So let's just work with the developer, make sure that we take care of that for them.
Yeah, Councilman, we'll follow up with you on both of those subjects. I think as the council knows, there's been a significant amount of work in the channel already as we prepare for El Nino. We've had a lot of folks, our staff out there trying to work, make sure the channel is clear. But we'll report back on that. And regarding Stanford Avenue, there have been a few other questions about that with heavy traffic on it, and I'll review the status of that with our police department and with our public works department, both from a signage standpoint. I believe some new signage has been put up there. Not entirely certain, but I'm going to check into that. That prohibits heavy traffic on that street, and then also as we're talking about heavy trucks, with great news today about the Brookhurst project groundbreaking, but we also have to be very sensitive to, the route that cement trucks and heavy trucks are taking as they're, bringing materials into the site. So we'll look into that too. So I appreciate that.
And then lastly, on the pot shop on that strip mall, could you have our PD go out and investigate that? Thank you.
We will. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you bringing your concerns to the council. And at this point, we have item 5A.
Yes, item 5A is a request from West Garden Grove Youth Baseball for the fees to be waived for police support for their opening day parade at a cost of $2,600.
I believe there's somebody here from the West Garden Grove Baseball to speak.
Yeah, we have two, Michael Mayer and Terry Anderson. Step forward.
Thank you, City Council. Good evening. My name is Terry Anderson, and I'm the new president, West Garden Grove Youth Baseball. I'm here tonight asking for your support for our opening day parade and family fun day on Saturday, February 20th, and by waiving the police motor fee of approximately $2,600. As you are aware, our opening day parade has been part of West Garden Grove's community for over 60 years, or for almost 60 years, I'm sorry. This year, we are joining forces with the girls softball and incorporating a family fun day after our parade, which will include local foods, businesses. In addition, our parade will also include Pacific High School baseball, their softball, our local fire department, local principal, the Miss Garden Grove court. And of course, you guys are all invited to be there. I'm sure you're all aware that we are a nonprofit organization and we run solely off volunteers. We offer baseball to our entire city of Garden Grove. This year, I also plan on starting a champions division, which is for special needs kids in our community. The cost for the stage has significantly increased from last year, as also the towing of the stage has increased. I'm asking that I'm asking that you please waive the police motor fees, as the cost would increase strain on our league, finances, and our ability to maintain our league's fee for our players and our new players. We certainly appreciate everything that you guys do for West Garden Grove Youth Baseball, and we're looking forward to providing more years of wonderful parades and baseball to our community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Michael, did you want to speak?
Hi, my name is Michael Mayer. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, appreciate the time. To kind of piggyback on everything that Terry has said, and since I'm not a politician, I'm going to do a little grandstanding here. I had a lot more earlier, but most of them have fallen asleep at this point in time. I'm vice president for West Grove Girls Softball League across the street. We reached out a few months ago and came to a cooperation with youth baseball to work in conjunction with one another on Family Fun Day as part of the parade. It's kind of an opening day, but what we always had was the parade went down the street and baseball went to the left, softball went to the right, and we never really spoke again. This year, everybody's going to go to the right. It's going to be a big carnival-like atmosphere. We're going to start off at Edgar, go down Topaz, up Lamson, up Springdale, go into Enders. All the teams are all going to have their pictures taken. Kids, both boys and girls, are all going to interact with one another. We'll have bounce houses, softball coaches are going to beat the baseball coaches in an over-the-line game. We're going to have, food vendors, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully we have, some city council participants, as well as Miss Garden Grove, a number of other community principals from all the local schools will all be there. In addition to the parade just going on for 60 years, I'm going under the assumption that the parade itself is going to be approved, the permits for it. What we're asking for is for, in regards to the fees. In addition to just kind of giving the kids some extracurricular and after-school activities, weekend activities to keep them out of trouble and things like that. All the benefits of being on a sports team, youth rec league, and everything along those lines. We are an entirely volunteer-run organization. Even though we spend more time on our volunteer job than we do on our real job, it puts a tremendous strain upon not only the time that we spend with our own kids, but our wives, our families, everybody else. Kind of asking that you look into it and consider waiving the fees, the $2,600, which is a considerable jump from last year, even though we weren't a part of it last year. It jumped from $1,200 to $2,600 this year. As far as kind of a measure of precedence go, I know that there was a cooperative agreement back in May this year, the city of Garden Grove, Costa Mesa, Santa Ana, and Fountain Valley on the Harbor Boulevard traffic signal conjunction to kind of unify all of those. And the thing that I found kind of curious was that all of the cities had to agree to waive all costs and fees related to any and all permits if such permits are required to perform any project-related work within its jurisdiction. So, I mean, I understand it's going to generate revenue, bed taxes, sales tax, all of those things go into the city coffers. I'm all for that. But at the end of the day, if we're going to make it so that residents can drive through our city faster, but we're going to tell the youth of the community that actually lives here that, hey, your parents have to work a little bit harder, spend a little bit more money to give you kind of a rec league, it would be kind of nice if, we just kind of consider, waiving, if not greatly reduce, the fees that are associated with that. It would be something that would be greatly appreciated. And with it being an election year, I would love to see you guys out there in the front of the parade saying, vote for District 5 Representative, Mr. Baird, Mr. Jones, whomever that might be. It would be a great way to kind of kick off that political campaign. And if nothing else, you'll definitely get our vote.
I think you should stop there. Having the kids here is enough.
All right. Hey, if you haven't picked up on it by now, I'm a little long-winded, and I didn't even have anything prepared tonight. This is all off the cuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I really like how softball and baseball are together, and those little ladies right there,
We had a lot of baseball players here earlier, and
They didn't laugh.
no, we anticipate about 700 kids altogether. We think that there's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000, 2,200 people with all the families. It's not just a West Garden Grove. I mean, we do draw from all of Garden Grove, but it's just kind of a way. We're one community. We're not two different leagues, and that's kind of what the message we're trying to get across to you guys here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You little ladies, you're going to make us proud. I graduated from Pacifica High School, and we were world champs in softball, not just once, but twice. So, and I'm looking for a lot more than that. So that's, I think our council, you don't have to break down, the cost of what we've invested in the future or in other projects, just getting involved in the community and bringing folks together. I think that's amazing. That's great. And it's a lot of volunteer time that you've put into it. And it's also generations. It's an investment, not just, to have a celebration here, but for the future. Any of my colleagues like to chime in?
I'd certainly like to chime in. Count me in. I'll be there. I love going every year, and I'm glad you joined it together with the girls. The girls still here? Girls, you want to be in a parade? You want to be in a parade? Huh? Yeah, there we go. So it's a great tradition in West Garden Grove, or for the city. It's a great community event. So I'm very supportive of this, and like I say, count me in. I'll be there.
All right. So why don't we vote on that item? Is there a motion, Mr. Beard?
Yeah, I move to waive the fees.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Okay. Please vote.
Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Nguyen?
Yes. Motion passes?
It passes.
All right. All right, so we're going to recess the City Council, just switch over to the Industrial Development Authority, and then after that we'll conduct our Successor Agency business. But actually, why don't we take a brief break just to, if you want to shift out, a 2-minute break, so we'll hang out here, okay?
See you guys there. Thank you.
I grabbed my sweater, but I'm going to check over here.
Go get some tea bags.
This is a dinosaur.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're going to open up our, our Industrial Development Authority right now. Oh, actually, yes. Either way, let's do the Development Authority real quick. Okay? Roll call, please.
Member Beard?
Here.
Member Bowie?
Here.
Member Fawn?
Here.
Vice Chair Jones?
Here.
Chair Wynn?
Yes. Do we have any, okay, we had oral communications ready. There are 2 consent items here, 2A and B.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? All right, please vote.
Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Jones?
Yes.
Chair Wynn?
Yes. Okay, there are any matters here? Hearing none, we'll adjourn. And I'll pass this gavel on to the Successor Agency Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, would you like to call roll for the Successor Agency?
Yes. Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Wynn?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beard?
Yes.
Chair Jones?
Here. We already did oral communications in conjunction with City Council and Industrial. So move on to consent items. Just receive and file the minutes and approval of the warrants. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Call the vote.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Wynn?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beard?
Here, yes.
Chair Jones?
Yes. We have one item for consideration pertaining to issuance of a tax allocation bond. Do we have a staff report on that item?
Yes, Greg Blodgett's here to do that report.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the agency board, the purpose of this report is to request Successor Agency adopt a resolution authorizing and approving the forms of a preliminary official statement, a bond purchase contract, and continuing disclosure certificate related to the issuance of tax allocation bonds to refund and fund Successor Agency obligation to pay $42 million to Garden Grove MXD Incorporated, which is the Water Park Hotel. On October 13th, 2015, Successor Agency approved the issuance of bonds, and then on October 14th, 2015, the Oversight Board approved the issuance of the bonds also. Subsequently, on November 30th, 2015, the Department of Finance and State of California approved the Oversight Board Resolution 47-15, approving the issuance of the $42 million in tax allocation bonds. So this is the final approvals necessary prior to issuance and selling the bonds. The debt service payments for these bonds will be paid from the Successor Agency Redevelopment Property Tax Trust Fund monies. And also the hotel is on schedule to open in February 11th, and the bonds will be issued 30 days, need to be issued 30 days after the opening of the hotel. So at this time, staff recommends Successor Agency Board approve the attached resolution approving the form of the preliminary official statement and authorize the director or his designee to transmit the resolution to the Oversight Board for approval. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Call the vote.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Wynn?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Beard?
Yes.
Chair Jones?
Yes.
Motion passed with 5 votes.
Thank you. Do we have any matters from agency members? Seeing none, we will adjourn back to City Council.
All right, thank you, sir. We have some consent items here.
Yes, we have consent items 6A through 6I that can be acted on simultaneously with one motion unless separate discussion and/or action is requested by a council member.
Okay.
I'd like to pull 6B, please.
Is there a motion for the
I'll
balance?
move the balance.
Second.
Please vote on the balance.
Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Wynn?
Yes.
Items passed with 5 votes.
Okay. Mr. Fan?
Yes, on 6B, I'm with the DA's office, and actually in particular, I'm in the group that takes care of this post-release community supervision program. So I'm definitely going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion for 6B?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I want a full disclosure. I work for the County of Orange, but I do not work for the Public Safety Department, so I have no conflict on this matter.
Thank you.
I do not work for the county, and I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Please vote.
Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Wynne?
Yes.
Motion received, 4 yes votes.
Thank you. Mr. Fan, you're back. Great. Okay. We have 7A.
Yes, 7A is authorization to establish a public safety fund, and David Barlag is here to present that report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, tonight we're here to request that you approve the establishment of a public safety fund and a related capital and operating package to track fund flow and expenditures for the police building renovation and the new fire station project, and appropriate a $400,000 transfer from the development fee fund to the public safety fund operating packages. Previously, the council approved refunding of the 2002 certificates of participation, which yielded approximately $8.5 million of new proceeds to be used for the police building renovations and for the building of the new fire station number 6. To keep track of these, or to keep these projects on track, staff is recommending that City Council appropriate $200,000 from the developer fee fund to each of these new fund operating packages for a total of $400,000. All contracts for constructions or related services will be vetted through the normal purchasing policies and procedures in place within the city and approved by the City Council. There will be no direct impact on the general fund. $400,000 will be transferred from the developer fees fund into the public safety fund and appropriated into operational packages for non-capital expenses. $200,000 will be budgeted for the police operational costs and $200,000 for the fire operational costs. It is recommended that the City Council authorize the Finance Director to establish a public safety fund and appropriate $400,000 via a transfer from the developer fees fund for the operational projects related to these costs. Staff is here for, or is available for any questions.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second it.
Please vote.
Member Beard?
Yes.
Member Bowie?
Yes.
Member Fawn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Wynne?
Yes.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
Okay, we're here at 7B.
Yes, item 7B is consideration of options for the Lotus Plaza project.
Great. We have a couple speakers on this item. First, Jonathan Curtis, and then Dr. Bill Grant.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm John Curtis. I'm an attorney for Cathay Bank. I'd very much like to, first of all, thank you for the continuance 2 weeks ago for the opportunity actually to work with the Hoag Foundation over some type of resolution. Unfortunately, I don't have good news. Cathay Bank tried to meet with the Hoag Foundation, but Hoag Foundation declined. Cathay Bank asked what the issues were that needed to be resolved. There was no response. Cathay Bank, as you know from the last hearing, actually offered a very sizable check in the amount of $500,031 plus change, and that was also declined. Brook Street, who you heard from in the last meeting, also did reach out to the Hoag Foundation to see if they had any questions about the plans and the updates and the work to date, and the Hoag Foundation declined to meet. So tonight, actually, I believe we're here to determine and find out whether or not the demolition order should be extended further or actually maybe even rescinded. There's actually very good reasons to go ahead and at a minimum extend the time period for compliance with the demolition order. First is the necessity for legal control of the site. As a lender, Cathay Bank has certain rights under its loan documents with GGG, Garden Grove Galleria LLC. It's got an opportunity to actually exercise those rights as well as exercise other rights under the law. Given that Hoag Foundation does not want to pursue down a voluntary basis, we can proceed down this particular basis to actually proceed forward with some type of development. Second, I would say that the extension is actually within the spirit, if not the exact code provision. I want to go back through, and I know you've heard this a little bit, so please be patient with me, but I think it's really important to understand what has happened here, because this is not a normal code situation where you've heard that it's dilapidated, someone's ignoring it, or something else. What you've heard in the past is the amount of time, effort, and money that Cathay Bank has actually expended on this particular site to actually move it forward for the benefit of the community. As you know, Cathay Bank worked very closely with Tri-Millennium Homes, and actually city staff worked very, very closely with Tri-Millennium Homes as far as to actually move forward with that particular project, and everybody was on board, including city staff. And then Hoag Foundation actually declined to go forward with Tri-Millennium and declined them. Cathay Bank accepted that, and so they interviewed 10 different developers to find the best developer out there for this city, for it. And, you know, the developer you've heard from, Rich Nolan and Chris Yelich and others, but frankly, they've been very modest about their qualifications and their abilities. So I wanted to mention a few factors right now to avoid any misunderstandings. First of all, they're under a binding purchase and sale agreement for the assets to move forward. It's fully negotiated, binding as between Brook Street and Cathay Bank to move forward. As far as the quality of Brook Street as a developer, you can only just look at their website. They're very experienced in brownfields, infills, adaptive reuse, mixed use, master plan communities, and have over 1.5 billion of projects, frankly, in process for it. If you only look at their institutional partners, any developer, any city would salivate over having these type of institutional capital partners that they have. And that's because they meet the highest standard that you can hope for. Those include companies in the United States as well as Canada, Cherokee Investment Partners, Fairlawn Capital Management, Walton Street Capital, Westbrook Partners, and Hillwood. And folks in the development and investment community certainly know those names as being the top out there. The other thing is about the project itself. Is Brook Street qualified for this type of project? And I'd say yes. I mean, they have presented to you as well as to the Hoag Foundation and Cathay Bank, and this is why we endorsed it, as a very unique project, along with the lab, which I think many of you have actually seen some of the work that the lab has done also. At no time has the Hoag Foundation ever expressed, at least to Cathay Bank or to anybody that we know of, any negative comments about Brook Street or any negative comments about the proposed project. And at least individual board members actually, from comments we heard, actually endorsed it. As far as equity capital for this particular project, and remember, this project is on a ground lease. Ground leases are much, much more difficult to finance, both from an equity standpoint and a debt standpoint. Is they've got Hillwood, which is a Ross Perot company, one of the top ones out there that is dedicated. And actually, there was a gentleman here 2 weeks ago from Hillwood in support of the project and ready to go for that. And that's a dedication not to the project, but also to this particular city. There's been a lot of comments about no progress with the project, you know, it's just languishing on and on. Well, we've got a lot of that history that's taken place, and it took some time to get the purchase agreement done. But at the same time, Brook Street's done a tremendous amount of due diligence that included detailed market studies. And the main thing that was left to be done was actually some physical due diligence with respect to the steel structure and some of the cement parking structure but that's also when they were denied access to finish up that particular work. Also, as far as work and inability to get things done with the Hoag Foundation, I think a little education might be appropriate in that vein too, because you've heard comments, or at least in letters expressed by the attorney, that it's sort of a hopeless situation. Agreements that have been entered into include an access indemnity agreement and a confidentiality and non-reliance agreement. But I think the next thing that's actually very, very telling is the draft agreements that have actually been submitted to Hoag Foundation's attorney. And that includes a ground lease as well as a tri-party agreement. And there's a number of documents attached to those. And frankly, in connection with the Tri-Millennium transaction, is Mr. Brinklow, the Hoag's attorney, is the one that prepared it. So you hear about all these difficulties and we're never going to make it. Mr. Brinklow is the one that actually prepared these, and they got way down. And so some comments have been made for those, and we were waiting, as well as Brook Street was waiting for some of the comments back. Really critical information for you to consider tonight, and I'll expand in a moment a little bit further, is what happens if there's a demolition? What happens if there's a demolition? First of all, I'll tell you, it's going to be economically infeasible to rebuild the current steel structure and parking improvements. This would be a lost opportunity, and I think most of you recognized that in the last session, that it would be a lost opportunity. Demolishing in this particular market, nobody is going to rebuild those particular improvements on that particular lot. Demolishing those particular improvements will also will end up in the termination of the purchase agreement. I think the other thing that's really important here on why it's so important to come to a continuance so we can get this resolved is the time frames. I think you've heard actually from your own city attorney and own city staff that this is going to be a long process for demolition, at least 6 months while you go out, get receivers and everything else like that. Brook Street has submitted a letter to you that they could be in construction in less than 10 months. There's a detailed schedule there. The remaining due diligence is less than 40 days. If you had a cooperative normal situation, is the remaining agreements could be done in 20 to 30 days, because what I've told you before as far as the negotiation on that. The entitlement application would take approximately 60 days after you finish the due diligence and the documentation to prepare that entitlement documentation to the city, at least based upon prior input from city staff and city planning, and there has been some changes, as it's fully anticipated that the entitlements could be done in 4 to 6 months. And after that 4 to 6 months, if things are actually frankly looking good, you could be in construction in 3 to 4 months. So you're talking about a 10-month period. Excuse me a moment. So coming back a little bit to my comment about, is this extension within the code or the ability? If you look at the code, it is certainly in the ability to extend this. It's provided for in the code either by you or the building official of the city. And if you look at the code itself and what's defined, it really enlightens you as far as what this is really supposed to be used for. The code talks about deteriorated or dilapidated. It becomes so out of repair, it's dangerous, unsafe, insanitary, et cetera. But there is a provision there where it says, hey, if construction stopped for 2 years. Well, construction did stop for over 2 years, but there has been diligence in trying to move this forward. Tried to move it forward, frankly, on a cooperative basis because it was faster and it would result in a better result. Another factor here, too, that really justifies extending the extension is frankly, the harm. I mentioned the irreparable harm that will occur if this property is demolished. To give you an idea, if you were to say, we're going forward with the demolition, is the cost to rebuild those improvements according to Brook Street, okay? Just the improvements that are out there is about $34 million. That's a huge loss to the city. It's a huge loss to the city because, number one, it's a long and expensive process to demolish the improvements. You've got a loss of tax revenues. You've got a loss of new housing units that are frankly demanded by this city and this region. You need housing units. And of course, it's a loss of a very exciting project that would actually serve this community. I think finally also another factor to consider here is, you know, if Cathay Bank needs to go down much more of a legal right in a foreclosure or otherwise exercising rights in order to gain control, is what is the likelihood? Well, part of what the Hoag Foundation has said really doesn't make a lot of sense if you look at it. They talk about proceeding further would be they would incur unreimbursed expenses and ultimately result in exhausting financial resources and other factors such as that. As you know from the last session, is not only have prior fees been reimbursed, rents have been paid, property taxes have been paid. Frankly, the Hoag Foundation has been made whole. Mr. Chen, as well as Ms. Kin from Cathay Bank, are here tonight and would be happy to answer any questions. I would be happy to answer any questions. Don't punish Cathay Bank for trying to do something that, in good faith, to work something out on a good faith basis. Do not punish the citizens of this community by destroying an opportunity for a really neat project by having it demolished. So I would say to you that I would encourage you to go ahead and actually extend the time period for demolition while Cathay Bank proceeds forward with other actions. And I thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions now or later.
Thank you. Dr. Bill Grant.
Thank you.
Thank you. The only good news, I think, tonight was I hope that we aren't the most contentious issue that you guys have heard. However, we, for the record, want to say that we are not here tonight because of the action of the Hoag Foundation. We are here tonight because of the action of Cathay Bank. The original agreement between the developer, Garden Grove Galleria, the landlord, the Hoag Foundation, and the lender, Cathay Bank, was building a project that was moving forward. That project was stopped because of the funding stopped from Cathay Bank. Following that, a lawsuit was filed. Garden Grove Galleria sued Cathay Bank. A jury awarded the Galleria $11 million. It's been appealed twice by Cathay, and both appeals have failed. There's one last stop, and that's the Supreme Court of California. We have tried to work with Cathay Bank for a long time. It seems though every time we turn around, we're not getting where we need to be. You were party to the last episode that we went through. We sent a bill for legal expenses to be reimbursed as we had done in the past to Cathay Bank. That was in June of 2015. We never have gotten reimbursed. We still haven't gotten reimbursed. That amount now is significantly higher than that. We heard a lot of excuses why we weren't going to get them reimbursed, and then we show up to a meeting, unbeknownst to us, and the grandstanding and waving a $500,000 check, here's your money, is not somebody we want to be a partner with. We can't be a partner. We did meet as a board. The entire board was present. We discussed the issue. We reviewed it from every angle that we could, and it was determined that we cannot move forward. It was a unanimous vote by the Hoag Foundation. it is an unfortunate situation. And yes, that structure will probably never look like that again. But this has gone on a long time. We have made the efforts that we have made, and at every turn that we have hit roadblocks and reasons and excuses why there's a problem. And unfortunately, we don't see anything changing. I have one communication that I'll hand the city clerk that was from us to Cathay Bank today. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. So what we're seeing here is really parties that are not even in communication, really. And that won't lead anywhere. So, you know, as mayor, I think on the city side, we don't have, this is a private matter, as our Mayor Pro Tem has stated many times, but our job as a city is we do have our ability to enforce on our codes. And there's been a violation, there's been an order for demolition, and we have to act. We have to give closure to our residents one way or another. I think it's been extended, quite frankly, for too long and beyond too long. And at this time, I'm going to support, you know, moving forward with the demolition order. And whatever happens in court, I mean, that's your private matter. You know, this isn't something that we could help with. I mean, I think, you know, all of us wanted to help, including our city manager and staff. We've done so much work on this over the many years. And if the parties can't come to an agreement, you know, we don't have any other option. So what's ahead of us here is, you know, the demolition order, and hopefully something is figured out in court. But what I know is that the residents, the people, the local businesses in the area have had enough of this dispute between the parties. And quite frankly, folks are just tired of it. And folks want to see action from our city council. That's what we've been elected to do. I mean, ideally, I'd love to extend it, the demolition order, and hope that things will get resolved. But what we're hearing is that things won't get resolved. Unfortunately, that's the situation. And as a panel, as a city council, our authority is really to act on the existing codes and policies that we've set in place. And that's what I urge my colleagues to do.
Do we move on the bullet number 1, where we authorize the commencement of a court action to enforce the notice in order to have a court abate the nuisance and the applying of a receiver to ensure removal of all structures on the site? Are you moving to that, and then we discuss it, or how do you want to do it?
Yes, I'd like to move that, and there needs to be a second in order to further discuss that matter.
I would second it.
Okay.
And
Any
so,
further discussion, Mr. Bowie?
Well, not discussion, but I just would like to comment on this issue. It is very clear that 10 months or so ago, almost a year ago, this council made it very clear that by the summer of 2015, we would like the three parties to reach an agreement for the council to extend the timeline to allow this project to move forward. And we do so because we realize that tearing the steel structure down is a great loss for everyone, for the Hope Foundation, for the Cathay Bank, for the new developers, and for the residents of our city. And that's why we even though our residents have been very tired of seeing this steel structure for years now, but we realize the potential benefit if we could turn this project around. And we realize the great loss if we would tear it down. And at that time, we see hope, we see light at the end of the tunnel. But unfortunately today, I do not see the willingness by the private party to move forward. And as the mayor have mentioned, this is a private project. The city cannot weigh in, to say, we should do it or we should not do it. It's up to the private party to decide that together. And I don't see that happening. In fact, today, I see that there's very, very little hope that we would be able to reach an agreement. The city job is to facilitate, to help, but we cannot be a judge, we cannot be a referee. And today I'm very, very sad to see that we are pulled by all parties to say whose fault it is. That's not the city job. Now, as some residents will come up with their own assessment of whose fault it is, or maybe everyone's fault. For the city, I believe we only being in the facilitation position. If we think that there is a potential hope, we try to work and allow that to happen. But I think this has gone beyond the times the window that we can allow it. If we allow this to move to extend the time for another years, what happened at the end of the years? Would it fail? Then we extend another years. So I am very saddened. I wish this project would have been able to turn around, but it's a private issue, and I think it's time for the judge to decide, whether the judge will allow time or will not.
So if I may ask our acting city attorney, as far as we were to issue the go-ahead with the demolition order tonight, and the parties take it to court, is there anything that can do by the court's action that will stop our demolition order in time before the whole structure comes down and there's no project to be built?
Well, when we make the application or the filing with the court, it goes into the hands of the judge.
Okay.
So we'll be obviously asking the judge to issue an order, but the parties will have an opportunity to be heard by that judge, and I'm pretty sure they're going to present their side, and the city's interest is to enforce its order. Ultimately, the judge needs to make a final decision whether to authorize and order that or whether to allow time for the parties to present their case.
Okay, so the court still has the final say in if the court will approve or order or not, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then I would agree with the mayor and Councilman Boyd that we just do what we have to do and go forward with this demolition order.
Mr. Jones? Yeah, thank you. I'd like to weigh in and maybe offer a little different perspective on this, and I'll start by saying that I, as much as my colleagues and all the residents in the community, would like to see something happen with that site, to not just sit there blighted any longer than it has to. That is also tempered with kind of a lot of experience in seeing things like this and just knowing a lot of the intricate details of this situation over the years. So I personally think that the decision of whether to move forward with the demolition order sort of as a method of being punitive to the private parties for not being able to come together within a certain time frame versus being patient and waiting to see how their dispute plays out I think there's, what I've heard from both parties, frankly, is that there's economic value in the existing structure, and that if it went away, we likely wouldn't see something as a replacement that would be anywhere near as fabulous as this project or a project involving that structure still intact could be. So I think by moving forward not hastily, I know it's been a while, by moving forward with a demolition order, I think we're creating what's known in economic terms as a deadweight loss of something that could be a tremendous benefit to the community at some point. So I think there's something that plays out down the line here as the appeal, Cathay's appeal to the Supreme Court plays out, as Hoag's, the dispute with Cathay Bank plays out, and we see where it comes up. But frankly, I think it's a deadweight loss to get rid of the structure. So I would be more inclined to give this some more time, even though we've already given it a lot of time, because of the complexity in the dollar values and just the end result of what could be for the community versus what will likely be if that building ultimately gets demolished.
How much more time do you entertain? 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years?
That's a good.
Can you give us some idea?
Yeah, good question. Hopefully not.
I'm willing to give times, but it have to be reasonable, and we have to have reasonable hope.
Yeah.
I just don't want to throw it out there because we want to hope that something will happen.
Right. Fair deja vu for me. Okay. Fair question, fair comment, right?
Yeah.
There was reference to Cathay's appeal to Supreme Court and that there would be some sort of resolution on that by the end of March or something, right? So whatever happens on that could be telling, right? Beyond that, there's, what happens between Hoag and Cathay if they don't come together. Then do they find a way to work it out, or do they part ways? And if so, what happens with the future of the site? We don't know. So I think we have to wait until probably at least the end of March before there's any next inflection point, whatever. So that's several months from now before we revisit it based on sort of what happens.
Let me ask my colleague this hypothetical question, and I'm emphasize hypothetical. Let's just suppose we move forward with the litigation and ask the court to intervene, and let's say we start that in let's just say in January, and then come March. One of the three parties will come back and say, wow, I have a better idea. I can take over this project. Please, cancel your litigation. What do we do?
I believe that's up to the judge at that point.
Can the city attorney comment on that? Whether the city have the right to withdraw it and then do something, or is it with the judge? I'm not saying that we will, but I'm asking about the option.
Normally, we would have that opportunity. In fact, we would be going to court not on a criminal matter, but on a civil nuisance abatement matter. So there's an opportunity to settle in court as well. And settlements in court obviously would have the blessing of the judge. I cannot predict what a judge would do in this case. We've handled a few cases, but not to this magnitude. So I really don't know how quickly the process will go. It is a civil case that we would be filing. But there is the opportunity to settle in court, and the settlement could take many forms. To the extent the city is a party to the litigation, we would be bringing back to the city council any proposed settlements. I personally wouldn't have the authority to settle without your authorization. That's the best I can do right now with the facts that are before me.
Well, I certainly hope that hypothetical question we will never have to deal with, because as I mentioned, once we get to this point, I felt that this is really serious matter, folks. If we get to this point, there's no return. If we get to, I hope that every effort to try to save the steel structure and pull the project back on its track, we will exhaust it. And once we get to this point, it's difficult to turn around. So I hope if we entertain Councilman Jones' a few more months until March. We, that we have to be careful, because otherwise I don't see how we can try to. When I say we here, I don't see how the three parties can try to steer this back.
One more question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Can you give a ballpark, and not to quote you or anything, Omar, but as far as the cost, you said the initial filing cost would be $6,000 to $8,000. What can the city expect if this goes full-blown trial and everything else in between? What's our upper limit as far as our legal fees?
At this point, rather than speculating in terms of sitting down and trying to calculate the manpower hours, I couldn't tell you with a certainty, because it depends on the opposition of the parties. They can drag out and can make it a lot costly, but I can tell you that in nuisance abatement actions, the city can request for recovery of attorney's fees.
Okay. So
and to further answer Mr. Bowie's question, for code enforcement type actions, we normally don't recommend terminating the action without a settlement, because we don't commence litigation and then decide we weren't supposed to, or we change our minds, without causing the other side to incur attorney's fees and then becoming the prevailing party, and then the city being exposed to their attorney's fees. So once we do file litigation, we will continue till the end, either through judgment or through settlement.
So we can assure our citizens, our taxpayers, that if we get dragged into a legal battle and everything goes full tilt, that at least we'll be compensated back for the parties who are making it longer and harder for us to conclude this matter, correct?
Yeah, the award of attorney's fees is through a motion to the court, and ultimately the judge decides whether to award attorney's fees, and also decides the amount. We have to file a motion, we have to present our bills to the court reviews them and determines whether they're reasonable or not. But it is a remedy that the city has available in these types of cases.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Beard?
Yeah, I'm inclined to, I have hopes of pursuing this project to see it developed. That's the optimum solution, but we have the parties against one another. But I'm in favor of adding an extension to perhaps March to have them see if they can work it out some more. My attitude is either get it done or get it down, and I think my hope and efforts would be to get it up, get it going. So with that, I'd be supportive of extension.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Please vote.
Is that a substitute motion?
Yeah, can I do a substitute motion?
Of course, certainly.
And I don't know exactly what I would say, but to continue this item, or to extend to stay the demolition order? What's my terminology? To the end of March 2016.
Well, you can simply just continue this matter,
the item as stated,
re-agendize
and bring
it in
it
March
back
to reconsider it in March.
The first meeting in April.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay.
So we deliberate on that, or do we?
Yeah, we can deliberate on that.
I do not feel comfortable that we have an unended extension. If we extend it, I would like to make sure that we have a real end date, that the city council acts on it. If we just extend it and then in March we will reconvene and then we can extend it one more time, I felt that's very uncomfortable for me to vote on.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Understood, but the purpose for extending it is to see what plays out over the next several months and then act on that new information.
Yeah,
so.
If that is the case, I would rather that you put a date where you feel comfortable that will be enough for you to stake out and see what we need to do.
That's why I said I'd like to continue it to a date certain, which would be the whatever date the first meeting in April of 2016 is.
Mr. Bowie, are you offering an amendment to the motion?
I would like to amendment to that it will be that we set the time to say no more than by the end of, why don't you say, we'll extend it until end of May.
Oh, it just got longer.
Right,
March,
so that you have
longer.
enough time for you to wait to see how it play out with the appeal at the Supreme Court. If you say that the Supreme Court will rule in March, I would be only willing to give it, a couple more months.
Okay.
If the Supreme Court do not continue, do not hear that by that date, that's it.
I see. Okay. You accept that amendment?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Of course. So let's deliberate on that. I have a couple of questions for our acting city attorney. Now, since we've issued a demolition order in 2013, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 2015 now, 2016 is next year. That's 3 years later. Let's say, the judge, if I was the judge, I would think, well, this council, they really wanted to enforce on their code, on their policies, and they brought it forward, and they extended the date. It was in good faith that the parties would work it out, and then they extended it again, and then again, and they're not really being decisive here. Is that going to affect our litigation when we do go forward, or if I do have a little bit of hope, if we go forward, what will that judge think? Because if I was the judge, I'd think, hey, that city council, not really serious there. So that actually, weakens our position, no?
Yeah. On that thought, Councilman Jones, what would you hope that the Supreme Court will do that will change the course of this issue?
Well, I want to be real hesitant in answering that simply because I think, like I stated before, this is a private party dispute, so I don't want to speculate in any way, shape, or form about what happens. I would just sort of like to let this play out and see what happens. It's an interesting private party dispute between a local nonprofit and a big bank and piece of property in a very complicated set of situation that went through a downturn and yada, yada, yada. So it will be interesting and entertaining, and I don't want the city to be in the middle of that. I just think for the benefit of the community, it would be great if at the end of the day, whoever is left standing would be standing with a building they could finish. So that's why I would like to give it a chance to get to that point, so that we see this building completed as opposed to torn down and replaced by something smaller. And let me add, earlier this evening, we were all out with shovels doing a groundbreaking across the street on what's going to be a very massive project right on the other side of the same intersection. This intersection has been referred to as the crossroads in town, right? You have the Korean Business District to the east all the way down towards Beach Boulevard. You have City Hall and downtown and Main Street to the west. You go south, you have Little Saigon. This intersection deserves to be fabulous when it grows up, and that was the original vision and the intention. Finally, today, we have groundbreaking across the street for what's going to be a major mixed-use development project with massing, with 4- and 5-story buildings. We have this structure in place, which may or may not stand. I would like to see the vision completed, and I think if this building gets demolished, then, like I said, it's a dead weight loss because we won't likely see the replacement cost justify building something of this magnitude again in the future. That only occurred in a speck of time when anything was possible back in 2004 or 5 or whenever this came forward. So I would like to give this building a fighting chance to let the parties figure out what they're going to figure out.
I'd like to do that too. But we've already seen and heard, and it's already in writing, that that's not happening. Not only is that not happening, there's an unwillingness from the property owner. So I don't know what you have in mind when you're saying that.
Like I said, I don't want to speculate about
the
private party dispute or how that plays out. I just think it'll be interesting. So.
It will certainly be interesting, but I think we also have a responsibility to our community They've elected us to be in this difficult position to make these calls. And
Exactly.
we've heard from the community time and time again. You know, I hate to hear this be an election issue again, you know? I mean, folks have already voiced themselves. I think our residents have already voiced themselves on it. And it's our job, and it's a tough job. The reality is that's our policy. And we have already issued the order 3 years ago. So I'm urging my colleagues, I mean, yes, we want to give time, but we also want to follow our own laws that we've created and these guidelines. You know, that's what our body is about. We not only set those laws, but we follow them and we follow through.
Yeah. In my heart is telling me to, let give it more times. But my brain tell me, no, you shouldn't do it. Yeah. It's not an easy decision. Based on the fact that I see laying out in front of me here, I see almost zero hope that this will ever be turned around. Almost zero, if I don't want to say zero. Of course, things can change. People change their mind sometime too. But if we just, hang on a very small track that, maybe, when the Supreme Court hear this, things will be different. Maybe after, the holiday season, people will change their mind. We can, hang on to that little hope. But my brain don't see it that way. My heart telling me, let's do it, because this is a big deal. It will benefit the city and the resident for many years. But I don't see it happen from the analysis. So Councilman Jones, if you can come up with some other idea that can ends up a little bit of hope, maybe I would do it, because I can see a few months is not it's not something that will break our city. But you need to convince me of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me take a crack. Okay. So there's a private party dispute. At the end of the day, one of the two parties will prevail in controlling the property. Each will assert that it has or should have had the right to continue development of the existing improvements, and that if we act to demolish the building at this time, that we're creating a dead weight loss that could have been built by one or the other of the parties, or possibly the two parties coming together, even though they don't see eye to eye right this second. But even though they've made that.
Member Fawn?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Nguyen?
No. I guess it's going to come back to us.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. The motion passed.
Yes. End of May. Okay. We have item 8A, and there's also a speaker, if you're still here. But is there a staff report or anything, too? I'm going to call up Robert Harrison to speak on this.
Do you have any presentation?
No, you can go ahead and speak first.
Pardon? I get to
Yeah.
speak first?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Robert Harrison, and this memorandum that's being presented tonight, our neighborhood did not know about it until last night around 5 o'clock. I prepared a response that everybody should have a copy of. Along the way, this is not just a permit parking issue. The police department, the traffic commission, everybody else that's been doing studies on this the past year realizes the problem is the mobile home park. Druggies, parolees, they dump 300 plus cars into our neighborhood. When I go home tonight, I may be lucky to park to see my house. how can I say, the standard of living that we've seen and had the past number of years, it's gone down. In my cul-de-sac alone, within the last 2 years, there's been 5 traffic accidents. Another recent thing that I feel is very important, a couple Sundays ago, I'm leaving the cul-de-sac area, and I see a bunch of trash that somebody dumped there. So I don't do anything about it. I come back around 5 o'clock or 4, and I look, and there's drugs. And so I call the police, non-emergency number, and an hour later I go back out there. Somebody had messed around it, and now there's a weapon showing. And nothing's done about it. It's on private property. But it's right on the sidewalk where kids walk to school. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, young kids are going to school there and coming home. Teenagers are going there, and there's drugs and a weapon. These things are happening in our neighborhood. And we're concerned about our property and our lives. It's not just a parking issue. I think some of you have been there and seen what we're talking about, the council people. It's not a happy environment. You know, people are talking about leaving, moving out of Garden Grove. It's not just a parking issue. The comments that I made for this memorandum, not enough time to be addressing each and every one here, but it's flawed to a certain extent. It's not 15 parcels. And could somebody tell me where what the Jetty Circle is? That's a street that's identified, nobody knows. The cost seems inflated. And I mean, the police have come out and met with us, and they say to us, if the city council passed to permit parking, we can and will enforce it. Okay, they told us that. Then we're being told that they can't enforce it, but they could enforce restricted parking. Say no parking on the streets from midnight to 6. And we already had a traffic commission hearing, and they went out and did their own study before the hearing, and they were not going to vote for restricted parking. It wasn't, you know, they were asking us what we thought. We didn't want the restricted parking, but they weren't even going to vote for it in the first place. And this memorandum is getting us nowhere. It's the same thing. Everybody knows it's the mobile home park, the druggies, the parolees, and the parking. Other cities have stepped up to the plate. Tustin, Anaheim, Costa Mesa, and some of them are very low cost or no cost. And when it comes to some of the revenues they've collected, it's in the 50,000 range, not 1,300 that's mentioned in here. My, again, short, shooting from the hip, analysis of this came last night after receiving it around 5 o'clock. So we're not prepared. When we had the traffic commission hearing, we had 25 people here from our neighborhood. Right now there's only 2 of us because of the timing and, you know, not being informed and that sort of thing. We need some help. How do you tell the kid in the corner that somebody wanted his Nintendo set more than he did? The people right next door to us, that young family with children, they're out there, the baby carriages and everything, and the people from the mobile home park come there and see. The next day, they're gone. People's cars are broken into, their garages are broken into, tools are taken. And when I first, I've been, what is it? No, going on 40 years in that area, had none of this. So anyway, I've given you my comments on this, and I'm trying to say this is not just a parking permit issue. You know, protect and serve. We're concerned about our property and our lives. Another lady down the street, her wedding jewelry and heirloom jewelry is gone. Somebody wanted it more. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Staff report on this? Is there a staff report?
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, before we get into the staff report, just to clarify, what we have today is this is just an item that's on for discussion. Staff has done some preliminary research. It's some preliminary thoughts on behalf of the staff about a parking permit program. You know, it's not on for approval today. Certainly understand the gentleman's comment.
Sure.
This isn't just, you know, everything he's identified. This isn't solely about a parking permit program.
Thank you, thank you. And Mr. Harrison, we do appreciate you coming and after finding out on such short notice. There will be no action taken on this item, but we can certainly learn more about it, and we're very grateful that you are sharing the conditions in your neighborhood with us. We take it very seriously. Staff?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. In the past, staff has received requests from residents to form a residential permit parking program in their neighborhood. This is because they were experiencing vandalism, illegal activity, and on-street parking problems as a result of overspill parking from tenants of nearby mobile home parks and apartment complexes. In response, the City Council requested staff to provide a residential permit parking study addressing the following matters: cost and feasibility to implement a self-sustaining program, program staffing levels, program outsourcing options, legal challenges, and review of other Orange County cities programs. Cost and feasibility to implement a self-sustaining program. To ascertain all program elements and costs, the city researched and reviewed other Orange County cities programs and policies. Once this information was obtained, staff formulated the program requirements for a hypothetical 15-parcel block district to estimate the following: one-time district formation costs and ongoing annual operational costs. The one-time district formation costs would include an initial traffic investigation, a neighborhood meeting, balloting process, traffic commission and city council meetings, sign installations, and permit issuance. Based on these procedures, the estimated one-time district formation cost for a 15-parcel district would be $7,600. Annual operational costs include ongoing parking enforcement for the district and annual administration duties, such as permit renewals, issuance of special permits, customer service calls, and other ongoing tasks. Based on these procedures, the estimated annual operational cost for a 15-parcel district would be $12,300. Besides estimating expenditures, staff also took into account program revenues that could offset some of the indicated costs. In this case, we estimated receiving approximately $1,100 in citation revenues for a 15-parcel district. Now, accounting for all program expenditures and revenues for full cost recovery, the first-year formation cost to each of the 15 residents would be $500 and $700 every year thereafter to cover for program operational costs. Existing staffing levels and the initial staffing required. The Public Works Traffic Engineering section will be responsible for developing and implementing the program. This section is limited to one city traffic engineer and 2 associate engineers. They are responsible for all the traffic engineering concerns and issues in the city. Traffic engineering and the police department may be able to absorb some of the new workload demands of such a program. At the formation stages, for example, the initial traffic investigation and neighborhood meetings. However, at a very minimum, 2 new employees, 1 part-time permit parking specialist and 1 part-time parking enforcement officer will need to be hired to administer the day-to-day program operations and fully enforce the initial districts. The annual cost for one part-time permit parking specialist is $68,900. And for one part-time parking enforcement officer is $126,100. As for the level of service that could be provided with existing staffing and the 2 additional positions, it would take staff approximately 6 to 8 months to process and form one district. Any subsequent district application would be placed in a queue. It is very important to note that the success of a permit parking program heavily relies on adequate police enforcement, as neighboring cities have warned that limited staffing resources have actually hindered the effectiveness of their programs. For program outsourcing options, staff contacted Turbo Data Systems Incorporated to obtain estimates for processing permits and processing citations. The firm has over 30 years of experience in parking citation processing, serving numerous California cities. They currently provide the city with citation processing services for street sweeping violations and general parking violations. For a residential permit parking district, the total monthly service fee is $500 or $6,000 per year, plus a cost per permit application processing fee of $2. The total monthly service fee includes a permit management automated system consisting of online permit registration, application, purchasing, summary reporting, one-time startup, and an on-site training for staff. These services are optional, and if included, they would add to the one-time district formation and annual operational costs accordingly. Legal concerns. California Vehicle Code Section 22507B enables local jurisdictions to authorize preferential parking permits by adopting an ordinance or resolution. And California Vehicle Code Section 22507.2 enables local jurisdictions to charge a non-refundable fee to defray the costs of issuing and administering the preferential parking permits. Based on Attorney General Bill Lockyer's opinion number 01-1103, which was dated in April 23, 2002, a general law city may not enter into a contract with a private security company authorizing the company's employees to issue citations for vehicle code parking violations. Potential unresolved issues. Our research of other Orange County cities found common problems with the implementation of residential permit parking districts. Some of the most prevalent are permit parking districts do not address the source of the problem, and they will continue to grow. Permit parking shifts problem to next surrounding streets. Due to limited fiscal resources, parking enforcement is very limited, prompting residents to complain about the program and the fees they are required to pay. If there is no robust enforcement program, permits are ineffective. Residents oppose paying for parking on their own streets, and they may insist on free permits. Added costs are hardship on low or fixed income families. Residents in multifamily areas are squeezed when surrounding streets implement permit parking and are forced to park further away. And apartment complexes rarely build more parking, and pushing the problem back to the generator has limited effectiveness. The city does offer solutions for residential on-street parking concerns. Some of these solutions are installing residential parking only, violators will be towed away, or cited signs used in neighborhoods throughout the city. These signs are mainly used to discourage tenants from nearby facilities generating overspill parking from parking in the neighborhood. They are not enforceable, but it has been effective. 72-hour parking ordinance. Vehicles are prohibited from parking at the same location on the street for more than 72 hours. Time-restricted parking. On-street parking is restricted during certain times. However, residents will also be affected by the time-restricted parking in their neighborhood. It will, however, help in alleviating vandalism and illegal activities. And code enforcement reviews parking facilities at apartments, condominiums, townhomes, and mobile home parks identified as generating spillover parking. They also ensure that the available on-site parking is being used to park vehicles and not as a storage place or trash area. In conclusion, staff has concerns about how effective a residential permit parking program would be due to the associated costs, potential for displacing the problem to surrounding streets, and enforcement challenges. Due to these concerns, staff will continue offering the solutions mentioned in the study for residential parking concerns on a case-by-case basis. This concludes my report, and staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fan, did you want to speak first?
Yeah, I mean, this issue was brought up, and, you know, Bob, you and I, we talked about it offline. It's concerning, and I definitely agree that it's much deeper rooted than just a parking permit issue. The question we have, I guess, before us is what to do about it. And because it's only for discussion purposes, I would like to respect his request that perhaps we give the residents more time to get together to discuss what they want to do. And now that we've heard what staff has to say or recommend, perhaps we can put this on a future agenda so that the residents have a chance to talk about what they want to do and come and address their issues to us more than just one person. And then perhaps at that time we can act more with more, you know, input from our people.
Definitely. Mr. Jones?
Thank you. I'd like to ask some questions of staff too. So assuming, and you said this eloquently in your presentation about how, you know, parking permit programs don't necessarily address the actual root cause of the problem. So assuming the problem is spillover parking coming from the adjacent mobile home park, how deeply have we looked into that from a standpoint of, I mean, are there just simply a lot more people living in the mobile home park than originally anticipated, or are parking spaces or spaces that are intended for parking being cluttered with trash or debris or storage or something and not actually being used for parking? Is there any opportunity for kind of enforcing tighter management of the park to reduce the spillover parking effect? And what's our experience in addressing it from that standpoint?
Mayor Nguyen and members of the City Council, we have actually had meetings with the Fairlane Mobile Home Park, and we have met with management. We've talked about the concerns, the issues, and they agreed to put out a letter to the tenants trying to discourage them from parking in the adjacent community just east of. I don't think there was a lot of impact. Obviously, we still have the issues that were brought up. That's one thing that we did early in 2015 was those meetings, along with directed enforcement and other steps that we've taken.
If one were to drive through there tomorrow, would you see cars parked in parking spaces, or would you see inoperable vehicles being stored and trash piled up in places that are intended to be used for parking? I mean, is there any opportunity to say, look, there's kind of some violations here in terms of spaces that are intended to be used for parking that aren't being?
I would say that the mobile home park is definitely overpopulated, if you will. It's very busy, and therefore that does cause the spillover into the neighborhood.
Some of the parking places now, instead of their cars, their furniture and their storage.
That's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah. That's what I'm getting as one thing. Yeah. And are there issues of any individual trailer units being overly occupied per sort of code standard in terms of how many people are allowed to live in spaces? I mean, are there unsafe sort of living conditions with too many people living in the space, creating too many cars?
You know, we can definitely work in conjunction with code enforcement to address those code issues at the mobile home park specifically.
You know, I think that's really, that's one of the issues here, is that, you know, code enforcement has taken such a big cut over the years, and our city has really suffered from that. You know, and we've all expressed our interest in making sure that code enforcement is robust, that it covers our entire city. I'm looking at the map here, just on my phone, and it's not just one mobile home park that seems to be very dense, and I've actually driven in there. It's a very densely populated community. And then across the street next to Lamson Elementary is Glenhaven Mobile Lodge. And then there's another big apartment complex, City Plaza Apartments, right there. So it's a very densely populated area. I mean, we have urban planners in our city. You know, we want to look for solutions to not necessarily parking, but also quality of life. I mean, that's what struck me the most when Mr. Harrison spoke. And, you know, he's a very modest gentleman. He didn't have to say that he's a, you know, Vietnam U.S. Marine veteran, but I can see that. You know, he wears it proudly, and he definitely cares about his community, and he's, you know, really stuck it out here in Garden Grove for a very long time. And I hate to see folks like him, you know, feel this way. And at the same time, I hate to see that, you know, due to, you know, social conditions, that our families can't afford, you know, housing, and that there's a lack of affordable housing. And that's why we have overpopulated mobile home parks. And I'm not advocating to put your family out on the street or anything like that. I mean, I'm saying this is a real urban problem. And we genuinely want to figure out a way to address it. And code enforcement is one part of it, but what are other things we can do? I'm looking at, I'm even thinking, what services are available for the kids in this area? And we have the park across the street with the new soccer fields at the Hastor Basin, and we have the Lamson Elementary School across the street from this neighborhood. And no, it's not Jetty Circle, it's Jetty Street, just to correct that on the staff report. And what can we do? Can we get creative? Can we really think about this? I think we should lead in that aspect.
Well, Mayor and council member and you know, Mr. Manager, I think for a long time, because of the need to allow more affordable housing that are demanded by the state. I remember in the time that I was chairman of the Planning Commission, a lot of time we were forced to reduce the parking requirements for new apartments severely. We know that it is way below what you know, should be available. But because of the state demand for creating more apartments, and that when we do that, the developer will be allowed to offer a lot less parking space. Now, and I'm not saying that what we did was wrong. When we do that for, you know, under the mandate from the state, we got to adjust our urban planning so that we do not create other problems somewhere else. For example, if we build an apartment that do not provide enough parking for their residents, they will spill into the neighborhood. And I remember some friend on Dale Street, when a new apartment was built there, they are forced to park about 2 to 3 blocks away from their home. That's put a lot of burden on them. What I would like to do is I would like to suggest that Mr. Manager will ask staff to take a look at our urban planning and see, you know, where the problem is. It seems to me that we have a much bigger problem than just 1 block or 2 blocks here. And I would like to see a report. If the council agree to that, then I would like to see that coming back to us sometime in January. We need to understand the problem before we can come up with a solution to you know, to address or minimize that.
Yeah, Councilman, I would just add, you know, this is clearly a multidisciplinary issue we're talking about. It's just there's obviously too many cars in the area that's causing some of the problem. You know, so to the mayor, to your point, you know, there's solutions. Are there enough bus routes in the neighborhood for people to get on buses so that we don't need as many cars? Now, maybe that's simplistic, but those are maybe some of the planning things that we need to look at. What kind of bus service do we have in the area? You know, in a lot of cases where you have development with apartment buildings, the apartments that are built will address the parking needs, but then sometimes the apartment owners will require will not, will not require, people to pay to park in those spaces. Or if they require them to park in those spaces, people are going to say, I'm not going to park in the spaces, I'm going to park out in the street. So, I don't know if that's part of the situation. But, the other thing that we might think about is this originally started in the, this issue originally was taken up in the Traffic Commission, and a gentleman said that there were 25 residents there that came and talked, and our staff here talked a little bit about the fact that there's some mitigating things that we can think about, restrictions, things like that. So, maybe we need to go back to the Traffic Commission when we have time for the residents to look at some of these suggestions. Maybe they'll have some ideas that, this restriction might work, this one won't work, and have a little bit of a dialogue and get some feedback from the community about, what some of these options and suggestions are. We can try lots of things and see if they'll work, and or if they'll make some small difference. But that's always an option. But we can certainly come back, and maybe part of that is talking to our planning department too, and having them think about this a little more holistically and weigh in with some of our other folks.
Yeah, I'd like just more information in general. I'm really curious as to what the average income is for this neighborhood, this particular census tract. I'm really interested in how many people rent or own. What is the average home value there? How much people are paying for rent as well? Because I imagine, that might be a part of the issue too. And I'd really like to hear solutions and kind of what's possible, not only from staff in terms of how we think about this, but how are residents being engaged in the process. I think, well, for me personally, I like to hear, from residents themselves, what's going on there. And I agree with Mr. Harrison. This is not a parking issue exclusively. This is, a multi-pronged issue here, and one of those issues is code enforcement, or even not. We talk about code enforcement. The reality is, there's been a lack of that, right? And we've all identified that, and the community has identified that, and they've brought that forward to us. So what that comes down to for us as a city council is also priority in terms of budget. How do we work with our current budget to prioritize that code enforcement? And so, yes, I agree with Mr. Bowie. I'd like to see more information, but I think there's got to be solutions that's not just coming from the city. There's got to be buy-in from the community too, from the people that actually live in this neighborhood. And I'd be more than happy if one of my colleagues would like to even join me with the help of city staff to host something, maybe even at the Lamson Elementary School across the street, with interpretation, so that we can hear from the people themselves. And I think, we can get some buy-in there, because the reality is that no matter how good our intentions are, if we just have those policies implemented, there's really no buy-in, then we are really shifting the problem to other neighborhoods, et cetera. I think it's important that we work together. We're encouraging that, but I'm more than happy to do that if anyone wants to.
I agree. I think there got to be a continuing process where we partner with the neighborhood, implement certain ideas, see if it works or it doesn't work, and then adjust from it. Because I don't see, if we just take a look from a theoretical point of view and say, yeah, this will work, that would work, and then they would be able to address it. And so I think it needs a partnership, a continuing dialogue with that neighborhood, because they live there. They know the problem more than us.
Mr. Jones?
I've got one other practical idea that might be constructive here is, as we look at adjacent uses that may be over-intensified and spilling over parking into these other areas, that we also look for any opportunities and or encourage the private property owners, managers of these parks or apartment complexes or whatnot to look for any existing open space, landscape areas, underutilized areas that could possibly be restriped, or any places where in the existing condition new parking spaces could be added in any of these projects. So it's just something to visually go look at and say, could parking spaces be added somewhere on site? Is there any underutilized areas that could create more on-site parking? What's that?
You have private property, that's a
Right.
mobile home park is. There's another private property over there that's convalescent hospital that has this huge parking area. It's not being used. But they're private property too.
That's private property as well, yeah. Right.
And on the restricted parking limitations.
Mr. Harrison, if you wish to make a statement, please go to the.
On the restricted concepts, one side of Jetty has very short driveways. So if there's going to be restricted parking and they're going to park in the driveway, they're going to be out into the street. If we have this restricted from midnight to 6, there's just not enough place for the residents themselves to park, let alone the people from the mobile home park.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think this forum would be to identify the solution.
No,
I
it's
think
not.
what we want to do is, I think we need direct staff to work with the neighborhood to understand the issue more clearly, more closely, and then at that time we will come up with the ideas.
I agree, and this, we do appreciate the parking study that has been done. We do appreciate it, and we do appreciate that staff recognizes the complexity of this problem as well. So we thank you for that. And so let's you come back to us with something, with additional data, information, and possibly a plan of engaging the folks that live in that neighborhood. I think that would be a good partnership to have. Because I imagine it's not just about parking, it's also about many other issues, including safety, et cetera, and code enforcement, and a long list of things. So I think this is a real, I imagine folks that went to get their master's degree in urban planning, this is what you wanted to solve, right? No? Okay. All right, I know it's late too. We have a couple more items on closed session. So thank you so much for your time.
I have a couple items.
You do? Okay. Let's do that. Mr. Bui?
Sure. I just would like to comment on our police department, especially in light of the terrorism in San Bernardino last week. I just want to let our residents know that our police department, have been on alert and monitor the situation very carefully. In fact, we work with the FBI to make sure that that our residents' safety will be be sure that our residents will be safe. I would like also to comment on the Public Works Department for finish the Brookhurst Street construction ahead of the schedule. I think this week we are putting up the final coat, and that all 6 lanes will be open for traffic, so that we can have good traffic during the holiday seasons. And lastly, on February 18, the Vietnamese community will have the Tet Parade along Bonsai Avenue. And every year, the City Council and the Mayor have been always participate in it. But this year, we would like to extend that and invite our city to have more involvement. Perhaps we could have our fire and police and public work department to participate in the parade. I think it would send a very good message to the community that Garden Grove is a city that are involving, and we want to let the people know that the whole city support the community.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burek?
No, I don't want to leave this last issue hanging, and I should have spoke up earlier, but I think we should have a report back within, say, 60 days on any activities, actions, what we've studied related to permit parking. I think we started the process with identifying costs. If we did have a parking program, this is generally the ballpark estimate. And then we can go down those roads of what are interdisciplinary elements that would be involved, policing, code enforcement and such. So I don't want this to just drop off. I think we should just keep pursuing it, information, and then involve citizens and let them, and when we have more information coming out or a study session or agenda item coming to this, we'll notify the residents too, so they will give them sufficient time to review that information as well.
Thank you. Mr. Fan?
Yes, I want to just take a moment to commend staff for the great work you did on the tree lighting ceremony last Tuesday, and also the groundbreaking for the Brookhurst Place this afternoon. Great job.
Okay. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just, I don't know if you were you getting ready to conclude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have something?
Just a couple.
Sure, go for
quick items real quickly. A couple things I wanted to mention to the public. We've got some community meetings coming up that I thought would be important to mention. We are tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. at the Garden Grove Sports Complex in Garden Grove Park. We are going to have one of our community meetings to discuss the redistricting proposal. So that will be going on. And then there will be a second community meeting on Saturday, this Saturday in this building at 10:30 a.m., where there'll also be discussions about the district proposal. So if any citizens want to come, learn more about it, express some opinions about it, we've got two more meetings this week about it. And then I also want to mention that there will be a community meeting around the site selection for our new fire station number 6 next Thursday at 7 p.m. at Walton Intermediate School on Boaro. So we had one meeting where we sent out some letters to just some of the immediate surrounding neighbors, had a small amount of participation, but this time we're going to be extending our outreach out farther in the community, social media and otherwise. So we're going to be having another community meeting next Thursday, 7 o'clock at Walton Intermediate School to talk about options for the construction of the new fire station. And then finally, I wanted to just clarify for Councilman Bowie's comment about the Tet Parade. The administration we can certainly put together something from our end if council members wanted to participate in one of our fire trucks or a fire vehicle and participate in the parade. We can probably give some thought to that, and we'll be back in touch with you to see, where people's interests are. So I think we can give some thought to that as well.
Great, thank you. So before we go back into closed session, we were all there when we celebrated the renaming of the library in West Grove after T-Bar Rubin, and it is with great sadness that we close the meeting tonight with honoring an American hero. On Saturday, we lost T-Bar Rubin, a Hungarian-born Holocaust survivor who joined the U.S. Army out of gratitude for his liberation from the Nazis, then earned the Medal of Honor for his heroism in the Korean War. T-Bar died of natural causes. He was 86 years old. Over the past several years, we have honored T-Bar Rubin in many ways. We have a bronze plaque in Civic Center Park in recognition of his Medal of Honor. We joined the U.S. Postal Service in the printing of a stamp honoring T-Bar, and earlier this year, we renamed the West Garden Grove Library to the T-Bar Rubin Library. We are both proud and honored to have known Mr. Rubin and to have him as a member of our community. We offer our sincerest condolences to his wife, Yvonne, and children, Frank and Rosie Rubin. We'll go into closed session now.